I'm just going to go live on YouTube so I can share that to the team page as well, because I know Beth had her account shut down, which has been happening to a lot of people. I'm just going to go live on YouTube so I can share that to the team page as well. It's just been really crazy. So, okay. Gonna be there. So I'm not really sure who had a chance to watch that video. I pinned it last week about building on your failures. I don't know if you had a chance to watch it, Kari, or not. I thought it was really good. A part of me was like, okay, I'm listening to her story and I'm like, okay, this is going to be really unrelatable for new coaches or coaches who haven't ranked up, because it's like she's talking about going from like 14 star diamond to superstar, and people are like, okay, like that's like that rank seems so inconceivable when you're just starting out. Even to myself as a diamond coach, that rank just seems like, oh, all right. However, I caught myself wanting to have that judgment about her or the training, and then I was like, but I'm going to put myself in her shoes because she has been working towards this particular goal, assuming she was going to accomplish this thing. And then she didn't. And like, whether or not I can relate to her goal, I have had experiences in my life where I had the assumption that something was going to go in a certain direction. My career is one of them. And then it didn't. So I understand that feeling of disappointment, or like, damn, that did not go as I had planned, because that has happened in my own life. So this is something that I recommend when you're watching training calls too, is to not compare yourself to the person that's speaking. And I'll be honest with you, the longer you're in this business, the easier it is to do that. Because when you start hearing stories of coaches that came in after you and have far outranked you, you're going to want to do that. That's just something your brain is going to want to do. And so one of the things I have just decided is I cannot even allow myself to go there, because that's not my story. That has nothing to do with me. The only thing I'm going to take away is whatever gem I can collect from that person's life experience, which every person has gems. Every single person has a gem in their story, in their life experience, that I feel like I can collect and I can walk away with to make my life better, my story better, right? So when I was listening to her, yeah, right, honing in on your own story. So when I was listening to her talk about her failure and how she felt like she had a decision to make in that moment, either she could just decide that she was just not going to be good enough for that particular goal, and really wallow in that, or she was just going to do whatever she had to do to make that goal happen, even if it didn't happen in the timeline that she wanted to happen. And how she herself has built upon her failures. I thought about, not in this business, but all the times in my own life where I have experienced failures and I have chosen to build on them instead of let them destroy me. And I thought about, one of them was when I got divorced. I was very young. I had no job. I had just graduated from massage school. I didn't even have a license. I was basically homeless. I found a place to live that was really unbearable living conditions. And I talked myself into getting a couple jobs that would just hire me, even though I didn't have a license, because I'm a smooth talker and I know how to do that. And just forced my life together, even though it was really, really, really uncomfortable. And, you know, I think back to that time in my life. I was 24 years old. I think back as that being one of the most pivotal moments in my entire life. Because for the 10 months, I think it was probably about 10 months that I lived alone in the woods in a shack with like barely electricity and barely anything on my side. I learned a level of self-reliance that I had never had before in my life. I was paying all my own bills. I learned how to save. I was working 3 jobs 7 days a week. I was dead tired, but nobody owned me, right? And I felt this freedom that I had never felt, even though I was grieving so hard and I felt so broken at the same time. And so I think about that particular. Do you think looking back at you would have I would have done the same exact thing. I honestly wouldn't have changed a single thing about that experience, because as hard as it was and as scary as it was, and as many of the nights that I cried myself to sleep, I honestly feel like that year of my life was absolutely pivotal to making me a resilient workhorse and the kind of woman who never wanted to betray her truth ever again. Because that's what I was doing in my previous relationship. So something just shifted inside of me that's like really paramount to who I am today. And it came on the heels of a really horrific breakup, which was so sad. It was miserably sad because I loved my partner, because my partner was really, really sick, because I was ostracized from my entire friend group for leaving my partner, because as much as I loved my partner, I understood that that was not the partner for me, and that was a very difficult choice to make. There was a lot of heartbreak in that situation, and it was one of the hardest decisions I've ever had to make in my entire life. And to this day, I still get emotional when I think about it, because I still love this person so much. And I deeply pray that they're well and doing fine, but I just knew that it was not the path that I was meant to walk. And it was so hard. It was so hard to let something go that you know is not yours, even when the love for that person still exists. That is extremely challenging. So, as she was talking about building on failures, I thought about my life after that. I thought about the fact that I ended up with my now husband, that we are now having 2 beautiful children that I would have never been blessed with if I had stayed in my previous relationship, because we couldn't have kids. I think about everything. My career as a therapist, which was started in the worst moment of my life and gave me 8 beautiful years of service that transformed me as a person and gave me a viable career and sustainability and purpose, like spiritual purpose. I think about everything. I think about my postpartum depression and how I was, sitting in a tub having suicidal ideation with a 3-month-old in a bouncer outside of my bathtub. And then I started Beachbody, and it changed my entire life, and it gave me community, and it gave me purpose, and it gave me something to wake up to and not feel like I was dying every single day. And that was a horrific time in my life. So I deeply believe that the dark parts of our world have the capacity to illuminate us, ironically, in a way that we would otherwise not know or not see. And I think it is the dark moments when we really figure out who we are and what we're made of. The light moments are the moments, I think, where we get to enjoy and celebrate and reap the reward of our recognition, right? The joyful moments. So in business, that is when you connect with a client and they say yes to you and you get a client, or when you sign up a teammate, or when you rank advance, or when you earn that paycheck, or when those are like the moments of celebration in business. In life, it's like when you find a life partner, when your child is doing really good, or, when your health is doing well, when those moments, I think, are there to really serve us in reflecting in how far we've come and to allow us this like moment of celebration. But I truly believe that Earth is a school of hard knocks. I believe that Earth is meant to be hard. I don't think Earth is meant to be easy. And I think for a lot of us who came here with really difficult missions, it feels like trial by fire pretty much 24/7. That's just what it feels like. So as she was talking and she was relating it to business, I just thought back to all of my own personal experiences where I have refined myself as a result of the darkness that I walked through, and how I wouldn't have the perspective or the life that I have now if I hadn't experienced the things that I experienced. I wouldn't be able to help people. I wouldn't be able to hold space for people. I would not be nearly as empathic or as self-aware as I experienced myself to be if it wasn't for all of those things. So even though I know sometimes when we listen to these trainings, it can feel a little bit unrelatable when you're listening to someone who's sharing a challenge or a difficulty or a stage in their business that is very far from where you experience yourself to be. I encourage you to always like zoom out and compare, not necessarily maybe in business, but like in your own life, where has that message stood true? Where has that message resonated with you outside of maybe the business, if it doesn't resonate with you there? So that is what I wanted to share about her video. And I'm currently in a phase of refining myself professionally. So, I know everybody on this team is in a different path and in a different, just a different direction in growing your business. And some of you guys are headed more towards the same direction as far as having a similar goal, but definitely all of our life circumstances are completely different, and we are traversing completely different avenues of life. And so I really wanted to talk about, alongside building upon failure, this idea of getting ahead of overwhelm and understanding what overwhelm is asking of you when you hit that place. Because I don't think that that's going to change very much for the rest of the year, if I'm extremely honest. And I know for myself, I am traversing a period of my own life where I'm hitting that wall extremely fast. So I want to share the takeaways that I have been receiving and like how that has shaped. I just want to make sure my son's, couldn't hear him for a second. I was like, where is he? Are there times where you lose joy and excitement and feel overwhelmed just due to life? Yes. There are so many times where that has. In fact, I'm kind of in one of those places now. So to be really, really transparent, I'm at a place where I've actually lost joy around working, which is very strange. And this is me really opening up about some of the most inner stuff that's been happening for me. But this pregnancy really brought me a lack of ambition. One of the things that it took away was my desire to strive, which has always been very organic for me. I've always just wanted to be an ambitious person because that's just who I am. But one of the things that it eliminated for me was ambition, because I didn't have the energy to even be ambitious. It was suddenly like, no, you have to rest now and take care of this child. Like, you can't do that, right? And so at first I was really resistant, and I was like, why is this happening? I did that thing that most of us do. We go in our minds and we like berate ourselves for being a certain way or thinking a certain way or not being enough or not showing up enough or whatever the thing is that we choose to do. And then I sat down with that and I was like, what is actually happening here? Like, what is happening? Like, what is this overwhelm or this lack of ambition actually trying to communicate? Because I'm a believer that emotions are just communicating. They just want to it's like when an infant is crying and we tend to lose our mind. We're like, oh my God, why are they crying? But they can't do anything else. They can't tell you what's wrong. All I know how to do is cry, right? So like fear can't do anything except have you feel fear. It doesn't know how to communicate in another way. So it's just like fear. And you're just like, I hate you. But fear's like, I'm just doing my job. Like, I don't know what else to make you feel. You know what I mean? So I'm learning to just be with my feelings and just figure out what's the message behind them. Because there usually is. There's usually something that wants my attention that, you know, if I slow down enough and I give it attention, I can take something away from it. And so for me, a lot of the message that has been coming through has been to really just slow down the pace that I have been living my life or attempting to work. And, you know, the only way I've really known how to create a thriving business my whole life, whether it's massage or coaching or a job, has been to hustle, to work a lot. And I'm at a stage where I can't do that. So I'm relearning how to have a thriving business at a different frequency that I'm accustomed to. And that's challenging for me. I'm really sitting in a challenge of that right now. Because again, coaching is now like my one income source. I'm currently working on expanding that because I always like having multiple streams of income, but it feels like scary. I'm back to that place of feeling scary or limited because I don't know how this is going to work in my new frequency and in my new field. But I do know that if I'm being brought here, that it's for a reason. And so my job is to discover this next phase, this next evolution of my business and my life so that I can find the joy and the desire to show up again. So one of the things that I'm doing, and this is something that Sarah and I talked about on our one-on-one that she scheduled with me. That's all I know, and I cannot physically do that anymore. And it's really hitting me hard mentally. Scary is how everything feels when I sit with it. Yeah. Well, I think it's scary because it's different. I think we are accustomed to operating in a certain way. And when that way no longer works for, it's just like change. You know, change is scary all of the time, not just sometime. Change is scary all of the time, right? And it just comes for you, and there's really no, like, no one's ready. No one's ready for that. No one's ready for a change in energy or a change in circumstances or a change. Like no one is. So I think you just have to remember that feeling fear is completely normal, and there's nothing wrong with you feeling what you're feeling. At the same time, like this is actually something that I'm reading right now. I'm actually reading Marie Forleo's Everything is Figureoutable. And she talks a lot about that. And she has a ton of videos on fear. So it might be helpful for you to actually watch some Marie Forleo videos. Just go to Marie TV, fear, like Google that, and I'm sure it'll come up. To learn to like relate to your fear. Because I am there as well. I just have stopped demonizing my fear, and I've started sort of just softening around my fear. You know, instead of every time I feel the fear, I want to like tighten up and just like make myself anxious. I've just started to like relax around my fear, like just take a deep breath and drop into my body even more and just relax, soften more. That has been my antidote for dealing with fear. And I'm really grateful for this pregnancy for that reason, because I feel like it's teaching me how to soften in a lot of ways that I was very resistant, because I also now don't have a choice. So that is what I would say to that. Now, how I am choosing to move forward in my fear, in my uncertainty, in my transition, in the current cycle of life that I'm in, is to just get one thing done a day that I know makes an impact on my business and can ultimately improve my business. So like yesterday, I spent 25 minutes meeting new people online, adding new friends, connecting with people. That's something I hadn't done in a long time. And it's usually something I really enjoy, meeting people and commenting on their pictures and stuff. I'm connecting with a lot of women who are also in their first trimester right now. And just building those relationships. And actually one of them who just met me reached out to me and sent me a message asking me, hey, do you know any workouts for pregnancy? And I was like, I'm going to message her today because today's my day to answer messages, and be like, yes, actually I do. And we just met. I didn't like invite her or anything. I was just commenting on her stuff, and she saw my page, and she knew that I could be a resource for her about exercise. So that's what I'm doing. I'm doing one thing, just like a thing a day. Today is answering messages. So it's going through my Instagram messages. It's going through my Facebook messages. It's making sure anybody who has asked me questions or needs support or help gets answered. Going through my emails, going into my challenge group. I'm redesigning the Warrior Wellness Studio. There's going to be like a membership component for the clients who are actually buying something every single month. They're going to get different support than members who are just maybe like all they have is BOD and they just use that annually. That's fine. They can stay in the studio, but they're going to lose access to things like coaching and other resources that I'm putting together now for what would be the membership side of the studio. So one thing a day has really been my focus. So like tomorrow, I think is inviting. I'm just following the business activity tracker, but instead of doing everything every day, I do like one thing a day. Is basically what Sarah and I talked about. So yeah, tomorrow is inviting, and I'm going to invite some of the new like pregnant women that I've been meeting to my Bump and Beyond group. Santiago, please take the dog out here. Go play with him outside. Thank you. And then I'm also focusing on re-inviting some business invites and new invites to business, just because my goal is to bring on coaches really is more of the goal for the end of the year. So that's what I'm doing tomorrow. And then the following day is following up. That's just like the one thing that I'm going to do is follow up with people that I wrote down in my notebook that are like my top people to connect with. And then every day I do try to like go through the challenge groups and make sure that I'm Santiago, take the dog out of here and close the door. Like out. Thank you. Close the door. Go through my challenge group and make sure that like I'm looking at my client stuff and answering questions when I see them, or if I see a message from a client, I always make sure that I make time to answer that. So things like checking into my team and checking into the challenge group, those are things that I pretty much do every single day. But like the other stuff that I would consider to be income producing activities, I've just broken them down to like one activity a day. And that's kind of what I told Sarah, because she's like, just bought a house, she's moving all week, and she's like, her head is all over the place. And I was like, just slow it down, slow it down and make it bite-sized so that you at the very least are not doing nothing with your time, and that your business is moving forward, even if it's at a slower pace, I need to try that so I'm not overwhelming my brain. Yep. Yeah. And that's the thing. It's like, why the race, and this is a conversation I've had to have myself a lot, because part of my limiting belief story, again, being very transparent, because I think that's important as a leader, is, well, I've been in this business, 4 years, almost 5 in April, and I'm not a 6-figure earner. I know coaches who have been in the business as long as I have, and I make $1 million. Yeah, in the business. That wasn't my story. That was not my story. That's not what I did. That's not what played out for me. And so, I feel like I have been in this race to just get it done and accomplish, because I'm constantly looking at the coaches that have done XYZ thing at a certain timeline and comparing my trajectory to them, and all the while feeling inauthentic about the speed at which I'm operating, because it's too much for me. So, I'm in a season right now where I've really had to slow down and look at what is authentic for me and what is my story. And you know what? Since I've slowed down and my income has decreased because I haven't been working as hard, because again, that's the only way I know how to make this business work. That doesn't mean you have to kill yourself to earn the income in this business. That means that's how I knew how to do it. And because I'm changing that, there's going to be some fluctuation. I've actually been much happier and much calmer in my nervous system by just slowing down a hell of a lot more. And so this is what I'm encouraging. I'm encouraging you guys to slow down and just slow and steady do what you need to do so that your business continues to move forward, but you're not sacrificing your mental health and you're not, putting yourself in a position that feels unhealthy for you. This business, you came into it because it is a health business, because you wanted to feel better and because you wanted to help other people feel better. But if it's to the point where you're sacrificing your well-being and your internal sense of joy, it's not worth it. That's not worth it to me to do. And it's not worth it to see any of you suffering. That's not my dream for this team. Was never that. My dream for this team was a team of big-hearted people who really wanted to support themselves in their world and found a platform to do that with that they loved and they enjoyed and gave them the opportunity to have freedom and health. And so I never want to create the opposite of that, which is extreme stress and pain. Do I know this business takes action? Of course. Businesses take action. If you don't take action, your business won't grow. That, I think, is a given. But there are different ways to take action in this business, depending on the season of life that you're in and depending on what's happening in your world. And so I think it's very important to know that about you, to know the season that you're in and what you're able to really give without taxing your nervous system, and to just do whatever that is. So if it's the one thing that Sarah and I talked about, then do that. But really, like I said to her, the 4 main things that we do that are income producing activities are: we meet new people and connect with them, we invite people to stuff, we follow up with people, we answer our messages. Those 4 things are what are considered income producing activities. If you did one of those a day, you could cycle through them more than once in a week. Okay. So you could do twice a week, you'll end up doing a couple of them. So you are getting momentum. It's not like you're, not doing anything, but it just slows down the pace so you don't feel so overwhelmed. Okay. So that would be, this is what I'm learning, and this is how I am approaching my business in a season where I'm really struggling with ambition and I'm struggling with drive. And it's tough. It's tough. I've never felt so quiet, inside of my drive before. So yeah, exactly. So another great book is Do Less by Kate Northrup. That's another great book, a great resource to read. She really talks about that. Yes, honey.
Can we let the dog out on the front door?
Not the front door, the side door.
Okay.
Where the washer is.
Okay.
You can let him there. Yeah, so Do Less by Kate Northrup is great. Good book. I'm really enjoying Everything is Figure Outable simply because of the way that Marie frames situations. I appreciate the fact that she is so good at reframing and she's really good at teaching reframing. So that's kind of like my biggest takeaway from her. So far, I'm on chapter 6, Define Your Dream. I really enjoyed it so far. Anyways, that's really all I had to teach on. So if you guys have any questions or would like to make any comments, please ask. And then otherwise, but yes, Kari, I think reprogramming your brain to not think that adapting to the season that you're in is failure is really important, because I think that's a mistake that a lot of us make, that if we're not going full speed, then we're somehow definitely failing. I think that's an incorrect assumption. But again, we live in a society that really glorifies overdoing everything. That's just where we live. And they really, really glorify overdoing it. And I think that we need to get out of that and break the cycle of that and just know that there's no glory in burning yourself to the ground for anything. There really isn't. There's no glory in being the one that gets to the finish line as a shell of a human being. Like, I don't want to be rich and broke in my soul. I don't want to be rich and sick. That's not a paradigm I'm willing to accept. I think that's been the most common paradigm for a long time. I will do anything to have the money. I will do anything to have the whatever. No, thank you. Like, I don't want to get there unless I get there with all of me, unless I get there holistically, unless I get there with a happy marriage and happy children and healthy body. Then I want to get there. But if I can't do that, then I'm not going to do whatever to get there. Okay. So that's my mindset. And when I feel like I can give more and I have more gas in my tank, then I absolutely will. And when I feel like I can't, then I'll learn how to rest until I can again. So those are my 2 cents on this whole thing. All right, friends. I don't see any questions. So I'm guessing there's just a whole lot of quiet resonance, which is good. You're welcome. I'm going to go put my son to sleep. He is still awake past his bedtime. We napped really long in the afternoon, so I'm sure that's why he's still up. But it is time for me. So if you have any questions or comments and you're watching the replay, please go ahead and comment on YouTube or on the team page, and I will be sure to